Growing up, I was more into Marvel than DC. I'm sure a large part of it was because Batman was the only DC cartoon I watched on TV for the first several years of my life. Whereas by the time Superman came along, Marvel had not only made 5 shows that decade, I also enjoyed the 80s Marvel series, which at their best I felt were on par with the 90s ones. I loved all of them to slightly varying degrees, but X-Men was always my favorite, partially because it was what kicked off Marvel's first successful period on TV. As such, the full significance of the Fantastic Four as the start of the Marvel Universe proper was lost on me, as my introduction to it was the 1994 series, but nevertheless they were always some of my favorite Marvel characters. Despite their importance, they have had a rough time with movies. Ever since the first attempt, they have repeatedly ended in failure.
The Fantastic Four may go Hollywood, but they'll never come back alive.
It's especially baffling as the Fantastic Four have had a much better time in animation, with 3 out of their 4 series being quality works. Well, 3 out of 5 if you count the terrible 70s spin-off The Thing had, but that's an in-name only adaptation, so I'm not including it. My favorite is the 1994 series, but only because of the second season, which I hold as one of the best things Saban has ever made. My other favorite is their first ever on-screen representation, the 1967 Hanna-Barbera series. Despite never seeing this as a kid, I found this to be so good it's actually superior to the first season of the 90s series. And as such, I feel that over half of the Hanna-Barbera series is the true Season 1 the 1995 season deserved to be paired with, so I'm going to cover them both.
Come on, baby. Now it's your turn. No, I've locked myself in with this monster.
Fantastic Four aired on September 9th, 1967, which happens to be the same day that the 60s Spider-Man series first aired. Appropriate, as it's the other best Marvel series of the decade. While these were the first good animated adaptations of Marvel Comics, neither was the first one, period. That honor belongs to the Marvel Superheroes, the first 65-episode weekday cartoon ever. Monday through Friday, viewers were treated to episodes starring some of Marvel's finest. In order, they were Captain America, the Incredible Hulk, Iron Man, Thor, and Prince Namor the Submariner. On paper, that sounds awesome, but the problem was with the animation, or rather the lack thereof. Because they needed to produce a bunch of episodes cheaply, the producers used a technique to Xerox the comic panels onto cells where they could animate the mouths. As cost-effective as it was, it always looked so awkward that even as a kid who loved older styles of animation, I never liked it because it always looked so cheap.
What the? We're in the 60s!
Well, that's just groovy. Give me that thing, will you? Man, what was our budget back then, $1?
It's actually frustrating because the writing is pretty good at adapting classic stories from the comics. If this was animated more like Fantastic Four or Spider-Man, this could have been right up there with them as one of the best 60s cartoons. As it is, the best thing to come from this show is being used for some of Disney's Marvel mashups where they do gag dubs of older Marvel cartoons. From what I've seen, the worse the cartoon, the better material they have to work with. The ones for the 80s Spider-Man and Hulk series can be funny, even if I like those shows. But the Iron Man ones are terrible because they only use the second season, which is easily the best adaptation of my favorite Avenger. It boggles the mind why they didn't just use the inferior season 1, but that might be because it already came across as a gag dub at times.
I do not understand why you insist on viewing sickening repeat performances of our numerous failures. I would just as soon watch reruns of Gilligan's Island in Norwegian.
The Thor ones are my personal favorite, because although they can still be hit or miss, the best ones are absolutely on point when it comes to poking fun at this show.
Excuse me, sir. The boys and I signed a petition requesting the animators add another color to the office.
What's the matter? You have something against the color green? Besides, my cousin's one of the animators.
Well, I gotta be honest, sir. He's not doing a very good job. If it wasn't for this black line here, I wouldn't even know where your desk was.
Take it easy. Don't you realize he can erase us out of existence at any moment?
On that note, I must confess the first thing I noticed while watching Hanna-Barbera's Fantastic Four series is how the animation is a definite step up from the Marvel superheroes. It's not perfect even for the time. The backgrounds tend to be less detailed than the lush scenery of Johnny Quest 3 years prior, and they recycle certain animations like this explosion, which after seeing several times in the first episode made me feel like I was watching a YouTube poop. The expressions can also be a bit weird at times, to the point where they don't really match what's being said.
Boy, this is some joint. I feel like Sleeping Beauty. Beauty? Oh, my kid. I'm still as ugly as ever. I'll never look different.
But that's just the price that came with older animated series. Despite that, the animation is at worst competent. Sometimes the backgrounds are actually pretty good, and there is just the right amount of movement with the characters. Even when a fight happens off screen, we at least get to see some of the aftermath, so it doesn't feel like a complete cop-out. All one has to do is compare the Mole Man and his minions to their appearance in the Marvel superheroes, and you see how much worse it could have been. While that show is not a Filmation production, this does show why I have always preferred Hanna-Barbera. No matter how bad their cartoons got, they knew how to keep the viewer engaged with visual storytelling by having it be animated just enough to keep things moving. There are even surprising moments of subtlety with the animation. I dare say some of the best I've seen in any 60s series. So, with the biggest negative out of the way, let's get into what works about this show, starting with the intro. It's a pretty good one. Even for this decade, I've heard better themes, but it's a solid piece of music that, combined with the visuals, gets you pumped for the show. The opening not only covers how the team got their powers, it shows scenes from actual episodes, including stories I recognize from the comics. It's good, although the snarky side of me can't help but comment on how they are already in their Fantastic Four uniforms before they even got their powers. Gives credence to the theory that secretly Reed Richards planned on them getting superpowers. But joking aside, this is a serious contender for my favorite English FF opening. The 70s one is fine, if you can get past the robotic, non-fiery elephant in the room. The one for World's Greatest Heroes is good, but I don't feel that it fits the characters. The only real competition is the second opening for the 90s animated series, which has my favorite music theme, but it's only 45 seconds, which works for the most part, except for the fact that the scene where they get their powers is so short it's easy to miss unless you are already looking for it. The first season's opening did a better job showing the team's origin for people unfamiliar with the characters, but the problem is that it sounds like the theme for a preschool show.
Fantastic Four! Don't need no more! That's ungrammatical! Reed Richards is elastic. Sue can save from sight. Johnny is the human toy. The thing just loves to fight.
This is the worst Marvel opening I have ever heard.
Tony Stark makes you feel he's a cool exec with a heart of steel.
Dr. Banner, belted by gamma rays, turns into the Hulk.
Ain't he on glamour rays?
Okay, third worst. All the other openings are better, however my favorite is the one made for the French dub of the original series. It's a fun song that manages to sound upbeat and heroic, which fits the series perfectly. When this series first aired, the Fantastic Four comic was almost 70% through the initial run, which was written entirely by Stan Lee and drawn completely by Jack Kirby. As such, this was Fantastic Four in its basest form. Franklin Richards hadn't even been born yet. While the stories were sometimes simplified for television, Hanna-Barbera captured the characters as best as they possibly could. The brilliant Reed Richards is Mr. Fantastic, who is gifted with the power to stretch his body and often confuses his friends with his technobabble.
We're actually in subspace, where no other Earth ship has ever been before.
Could you sort of explain just what that means? I'm kind of a country boy, you know.
Sure, Ben. Look here. I have an astral projection chart. I'll try to explain. Remember Einstein's theory that the universe is like a ball? We have just passed through the subspace edge of the ball and are at this point ready to enter the Skrull galaxy.
His wife Susan Richards, aka the Invisible Girl, although often playing the part of the damsel in distress, has proven to be very skilled when it comes to using her force field. Some of the stories adapted here come from issues before she gained that ability, which can result in her being captured feeling like an adaptation-induced plot hole, but in those cases she tends to free herself so it evens out. They touch upon her feeling neglected by Reed once or twice.
Hey, gorgeous. It's almost time to watch our wonderful selves on television. Where's that human workhorse you call a husband?
Reed's in his lab, Ben. Sometimes I think he should have married his microscope instead of me.
Johnny Storm, the Human Torch, is a hothead literally and figuratively who often rushes off on his own. Admittedly, he was always my least favorite member of the team. Aside from his brashness, it also seemed like he got knocked around more than he should. I mean, his fiery body should be untouchable, but enemies are always armed with water or asbestos equipment. I still like him as a character, but even in the 90s series he seemed to get his butt kicked a little too often.
So, you got Spider-Man's phone number?
The standout character for me and many other people is Benjamin J. Grimm.
Namely the ever-loving thing.
Even back when they had less than 100 comics to draw upon, they did an excellent job capturing the character of my favorite blue-eyed curmudgeon. He is the most popular member of the Fantastic Four, and it's not hard to see why. The Thing embodies the trend Marvel started of superheroes with problems which made them feel more like real people. His gruff demeanor masks the angst he feels at losing his humanity. And while it's not as major a plot point as in the comics or the 90s series, it does get to him at times.
They're right. I'm the world's homeliest creature, and I'm sick of it. Think I'll go back up and take off to some deserted island where no one has to look at my ugly face anymore.
His bickering with the Human Torch is muted compared to other versions, but they get some good banter every now and then.
Listen, Stretcho, I don't mind flying the tests for your new rocket fuel, but I want to be home tomorrow night for my birthday party.
That's it, Benji boy. Hurry home and blow out the candles on your little cake.
Boy, I might get mad and blow out your little flame.
In fact, Ben gets good banter with everyone else on the team.
There is one thing we can try, but it may be dangerous.
Yeah? Dangerous for who?
For you, I'm afraid.
How come you never cook up any gizmos that work better on guys that stretch?
As much as I love the 90s series, I have to say that this is my favorite version of Ben Grimm because he has the best voice for the character. Pretty much every actor in this series does a good job with their roles, but the stand-up performance for me goes to Ben Grimm's voice actor, the late great Paul Frees. I feel that he is something of an underrated voice actor who deserves to be mentioned in the same breath as the likes of other legendary voice actors he has worked with at least once in his career, such as Mel Blanc, June Foray, and Dawes Butler. His credits include Boris Badenoch and Captain Peach Fuzz from Rocky and Bullwinkle, Inspector Fenwick, and the narrator on Dudley Do-Right, Morocco Mole in the original Secret Squirrel, an ape named Ape, as well as Super Chicken's sidekick Fred in George of the Jungle, and the original voice of Ludwig von Drake. But out of all his great roles, I have to say that The Thing is my favorite performance of his. While I use the voices for the 90s version of the other team members when reading the comics, Ever since I started watching this series, I've been using Paul Frees's voice for Ben Grimm's lines because I really do think that it's the perfect voice for the character.